Welcome to those of our club members who have joined us so far. We're going to get started in a couple minutes, so just hang tight. Welcome to the few more club members who've just logged on. We're going to get started in a couple minutes, so thanks for being here. Okay, welcome everyone who has joined us so far to the November 2022 Anchor Club release virtual tasting. And I know we've also invited our Master and Commander Club members, as 3 of these wines were in the October Master and Commander Club shipment as well. Just a reminder, please use the Q&A feature to submit any questions you might have for Dick or Bingo, who are going to be going through this tasting with us. If you do happen to put into the chat, we'll try to monitor that. But again, questions are best in Q&A. So thank you for joining us, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Can we see ourselves here?
Are we live, Riley?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, good. All right, guys, take it away.
Can we have it reversed so we can see this?
Can't see you.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Here we are on a beautiful fall day. We're up at the Dick Doré Vineyard broadcasting for you guys. Want to thank Riley for being our off-scene producer, and Jenny, who's our on-scene producer. And I'm sitting here tonight with everybody who you probably know, Bingo Wathen. And anyway, Bingo is our vineyard manager. He's starting to direct all our vineyard projects, which are becoming immense, as well as assistant winemaker to David Whitehair. And Bingo, you've been with us, what, about 5 years now?
All your life?
All your life, yeah.
Depends on how we're saying that. I've been assistant winemaker for about 4 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
But before that, I was kind of in and out. Basically since I was 7 years old, running around catching lizards.
And you were over in France too, were you not?
I did one harvest in France in the Macronais with Olivier Merlon before I came back here to start working.
So, a question I often get is, how did you get the name Bingo?
Well, you'd have to ask Billy that, but I'll give you the short answer. It's from a character in a Tom Robbins novel called Jitterbug Perfume. There's a character named Bingo Pajama, and he's a Jamaican jasmine smuggler. And he is my namesake.
That's only fitting. Anyway, we're here today to talk about, first of all, we're going to talk about our vintage that we had that we just finished. all our grapes are in now. They've been in for about 2 weeks, and everything's pressed off and everything's been put away. And so now it's time to sort of look back and wonder what happened. And it was an interesting year. Bingo, you want to make any comments on how our production was down?
Yeah, I mean, interesting to say the least. Started off relatively normal. We had a kind of mild June and July, and we started picking about the middle of August, early to mid-August. We started with Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir, and then there was a bit of a lull where we had about 10 days where we didn't have anything to do. And then right after that, we had a heat wave beginning of September that was, it was over 100 degrees for
10 days, was it 10 or 11 days?
It was really, really hot for about 5 days.
Mhm.
And that was pretty wild. So everything that wasn't ripe was immediately ripe. And then after that, it got really cold. And for the next 5-6 weeks, just kind of temperatures went up and down and be warm, cold. So it was kind of confusing and logistically very complicated. You didn't have to wait. So things would get ripe right away. Other things you'd have to wait another week or two longer than the normal years for them to get ripe. So it was a strange harvest. Quality wise, everything was pretty good on our end. Yields were down pretty much everywhere in the area. I think that was pretty consistent. But quality wise, everything's tasting so good so far.
The yields were down almost 30% on some varietals, and here at Williamson Doré Vineyard, it was pathetic. Our Syrah, in fact, we're undergoing a replant right now to try to reflect that, but we will not have a Williamson Doré Syrah for the year of 2022 and possibly not 2023. And it's a combination of a lot of the vineyards in this county that are just getting old. I mean, we're 23 years here on the Williamson Doré Vineyard, and our Block 8 is over 25 years old, and we're having to look at possible replants, right? And to try to cope with global warming, we're trying to figure out what varietals maybe we should do a change in replanting. So anyway, it's becoming a project and a food for thought for the next couple of years while we adjust to changing climate. We have 4 wines to talk about today. And this is since we've changed our shipments. Instead of having 3-4 times a year, we have 4 3 times a year. So we got 3 wines to talk about. We got our Tinaquac Chardonnay, and we got our Pinot Noir from Riverbench. We have our Toasted Rope, and we have our Los Pateros from Happy Canyon. Anyway, we're going to start. We'll talk about the Chardonnay from Tinaquac Vineyard. As you all probably have heard before, that was a vineyard that Bill and I planted back in 1989. We planted every vine on that vineyard. And it was a combination of, we called it the Villar de Noche Vineyard, and that we would go out at night and get cuttings. It was all on its own roots. And we'd go out to other vineyards where they had pruned their grapes, and we'd pick up a truckload of cuttings and bring them back and make extra long cuttings and put them in the ground. And this vineyard has been forming for us now for almost 33 years. So it's become a real amazing, even through drought-stricken years, this vineyard has performed. It's Wente Clone, the Chardonnay, which we're talking about. 5 acres are Wente Clone. The other 2 acres are Block 4 Wente Clone. And so the Wente fruit is very small bunches, small berries. And so it really, it could give us anything from the vineyard to 6 acres, anywhere from 60 vines to as much as 600 vines or 600 cases. The 2019 vintage is what we're talking about. Bingo, you want to tell us something about the harvesting or anything about that vineyard this year that might be unique?
Well, the one really unique thing about this vineyard is it's dry farm, so we don't irrigate it at all. It's always been that way. Why don't we have irrigation there? There was just no water in the beginning, and it worked out that way.
Yeah, it was initially the way it worked. It was we would pump water for 2 weeks to fill our 18,000 gallons of storage, and then it would take 2 hours to drop it on half the vineyard. Then we'd pump for another 2 weeks and harvest the other half of the vineyard. And after a year of doing that, we decided this was a dry farm vineyard.
Yeah. So, and the vines, as we said, they're 33 years old.
Yeah,
So the roots are deep enough now where it gets enough moisture out of the subsoil, so it doesn't have to rely on a lot of rainfall, which there isn't a lot of these years. 2019, how was 2019?
Yeah.
I think 2019 was less chaotic than 2022 or 2021. If I remember right, there wasn't crazy heat waves that year, which is pretty significant now.
Uneventful
Yeah.
is the way
yeah,
we
I
like
think
it.
it crossed the line in 19. That's the case. It was unusual. The other thing about this particular wine is we ferment it. The fermentation usually goes for 30 days. And the way Billy does that, and Bingo, the way they do that is they use the large pungence, number one, 500 milliliter. And then they, when the fermentation is started in the barrel and then it starts to subside, they top it gradually with fresh juice. And that restarts the fermentation and causes it to go on and on for 30 days. And why do you do that? Because it really extracts everything there needs to be extracted. What else is unusual? Native yeast. We use strictly native yeast. We bring it in, we don't inoculate. We farm this vineyard, we know what's put on it, and we don't have to worry about anything crazy happening.
Any questions out there?
Yeah, come on. Scott, you got any questions?
Doug?
Greg? Let me have a sip and we'll start talking. Now,
Okay.
you all have,
Riley has a question. Riley has a question, actually. What kind of foods would you pair with this Chardonnay? Especially anything that might be on the Thanksgiving table, perhaps?
You know what, I just, I'm off screen here, Jenny here. I would say, I just had a slice of some new pears that we got in, some nice fall pears. And a nice little pear salad, maybe with some goat cheese, I think would be outstanding.
goes well with
What do
this
you
triple
think?
cream.
Apple or,
Pear, apple salad,
yeah,
even all kinds of cheese stuff, risotto, scalloped potatoes. With,
oh yeah. Anything
With
with some
cheese
nice,
on them.
it's got such nice acidity, something creamy.
And I'll go with turkey. So if any of you are thinking about some wine, in fact, most of these wines, probably except for the cab today, would go with turkey. Anyway, shall we move on? Or if there's no questions about the 10 o'clock? No
No,
questions.
no questions? You guys are awfully quiet out there.
I know, it's because Billy's not here. They
Oh,
like
wait
it.
a minute. Hi, guys, from Scott Olson here. Has the decision regarding Block 8 been made? We love those Pinot grapes.
Well, I don't think the decision's been made. It's sort of still up in the air whether we go to another varietal or we just go to another clone or we just pull it out and plant it in different directions because of global warming. There's a lot of questions to be answered. And I think Billy now is working out with Chris Hamill up there, and they're just trying to figure out how to come up with a new Wathen Hamill method.
yeah.
Good question, Scott.
Good question,
Tu-
Scott.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned and we'll keep you posted. It's one of those variable things. I mean, we don't know. Billy's hoping that because of the maritime influence that we have here in the county, that maybe will override some of the drastic climate changes that we're going to experience, that we're already experiencing. Anyway, let's talk about the next wine.
All right.
River Bench. Let me get some of it in my glass so I can talk a little more effectively.
Yeah.
Here, I'll let you go ahead. Okay, River Bench. River Bench is a vineyard that originally was planted by Meridian way back in the 70s, early 70s. It was one of the first vineyards planted, and it was the first vineyard planted on the south side of the Susquehanna River. So it was those things. And then, of course, Meridian was located up in Paso Robles, and the fruit all went up there. But it was one of the first vineyards planted. And a lot of that now has been turned over to vegetables. We source from some of the older blocks, but since then, Steve Will, who is the owner of that now, has planted some new areas via over the last couple of years, right below the little church at the bottom of the canyon, where we source most of our fruit from right now. But it's an older vineyard. This particular wine is a combination of Dijon and the Swiss varietal, the 122 Bingo. Okay, yeah. You want to talk about the soil difference between?
So River Bench is down right in the bottom of the Santa Maria Valley, just right along the river bank. Why it's called River Bench. So sandy, kind of cobblestone soils, as opposed, very alluvial, as opposed to stuff up on the bench on the mesa. So that would be Bienacido, Julia, is all the Cambria property, which that's where we source most of our Pinot from. So this is always a little softer, a little more fruit forward than say our Block 8 or Block 43 or Julia's.
I think Bill calls the soil up in the Block 8 colluvial as opposed to alluvial. So it's more of a heavier soil.
And there's a lot more sand on the south side.
Yeah, a lot less sand, a lot more heavier soil that makes the roots work a lot more. This is 16 months in French oak, about 14% new. Like I said, it's Dijon and Vaudeville clones. What else is it's imperative on it?
So this,
other than the fact that it's smooth and tastes really good.
and this is most of our River Bench Pinot gets blended into our Santa Maria Valley blend. This particular lot was a single fermenter that when harvest was over, we tasted through everything. We really liked it, so we decided to bottle it.
So this is a special bottle that will not be duplicated next year or try to duplicate. Not that we try to do that, but
So Bingo, you said that do we keep all of our lots separate until the final blending? And why do we do that?
Yes, more or less. Well, it's just we pick everything separate. So this was picked. You pick each clone at a time, or half the clone at a time, and you ferment them all separately because you're harvesting them all at different days, different weeks. So we keep everything separate through fermentation, barrel it down. Once everything goes through malolactic, a few months later, we taste through everything and kind of assemble the blends.
also I'd like to point out that the River Bench is SIP certified. What that means, we're gradually going to have all our wines SIP certified, meaning sustainably, what?
Sustainability in practice.
Sustainable in practice, meaning we're not necessarily organic or but we are sustainable. We're not doing anything that we don't need to do, and that's not the case in a lot of vineyards. Any other comments that you'd like to make about river bench. Any questions on the river bench?
I don't see any questions just yet on
We must
on
be
my
doing a
queue.
hell of a job if there's no questions. No?
All right, you guys, let's, the boys want some questions.
I'd say similar to our Santa Maria Valley Pinot, I would drink this younger than say the Bienocitos or the Julias. This would be tasting great in the first 3 years,
Yeah.
as opposed to the Block 8, where I would usually wait 2 or 3 years to even open it.
And it's very typical of the Santa Maria appellation. It's red fruit and spice, and it's just on a lighter level than maybe some of our other vineyards. All right, how are you all doing on the Pinot? We're going to move on to Syrah here. All right, this Syrah is our toasted rogue. We haven't done this in a few years. It's a combination of co-fermented Syrah and Viognier. And
What's the
Billy's develops a pretty interesting method in order to bring both varietals in simultaneously and not have the Viognier running on the vine while you're waiting for the Syrah to ferment. You want me to mature? You want to explain what?
Yeah. So first of all, this is 88% Syrah, 12% Viognier. And as he was saying, the Viognier tends to ripen a little earlier than this clone of Syrah. It's usually about 10 to 15 days ahead of the Syrah in ripening. So what we do is, in order to get them we like to harvest them together because this is a co-ferment. So the Syrah and the Viognier are fermenting together, so we have to pick them at the same time. So in order to, we want them to be at the same ripeness when we pick them. So to slow the Viognier ripening down, we cover part of the canopy with a shade screen. And what that does is it allows less sunlight on the leaves, so it slows down the photosynthesis process, and the sugar accumulates slower in the berries. Once the vines were mature, we kind of realized that was going on. So we've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, and it works. It slows down the ripening about a week. So they're kind of right in line when we pick both of them, the Syrah and the Viognier.
What a simple solution to a problem. It speaks well of the intelligence of our vineyard people.
And why do we co-ferment the two? I believe, and I think Billy believes, that the Viognier kind of brings certain things in Syrah. It brings a lot of the floralness out. It also provides a lot of color. When you co-ferment white grapes with red grapes, it sounds ironic, but white grapes have phenols in them that basically anthocyanins that provide color, but because they're not bonded with tannins, they have no color. But as soon as you add that to the Syrah grapes, which do have tannins, you're basically concentrating all the anthocyanins in the Syrah. So you'll see if you have this, if you have our normal Tinaquac Syrah compared to this is much darker. It's pretty interesting.
And people ask us, why do we call it toasted rogue? Very simple. Those of you that were on our Rhone River trip, we went by the roasted slope or the Côte Rôtie when we were on our boat trip. And it's a play on the word roasted slope. So it's, of course, Andrew Murray thinks it should be called Two Toasted Dopes. But anyway,
What would you eat?
Food pairings. Well, again, because of the Viognier and because of the way it lightens the red wine, yet it still has the red wine, it would go with turkey. It would go with probably the whole dinner, and it also would go well with pasta. Nice red sauce, not a heavy red sauce, but a light one. What else?
Game, pheasant, Cornish.
Yeah, game,
hens,
Cornish hen, thank you. Yeah,
Pork chops.
pork
I think
chops,
cranberry sauce.
cranberry,
Ooh,
oh yeah,
yeah.
cranberry sauce.
Oh, we got another good question here. From Bill Spear, great to see the toasted rope back with the Viognier blend. Would you ever consider making a predominantly Viognier wine?
Well, we did, and please don't mention that to Bill. We don't need another one. We're making 28 right now, and another one. I think using the Viognier this way, and we have it already in our Bajita vineyard, and we don't have to go out and buy any Viognier, and we're able to control the Viognier. So I don't see it in my future.
Never say never, but
Never say never.
It would have to
Really.
be very, very exclusive because we don't have a lot of Viognier.
Yeah,
Just enough to blend in with the Syrah.
yeah.
great question.
Good question. All right. Shall we move on? I can't think of any other.
Oh, from Lori. I love that question. Is Viognier is a favorite of mine as well. Are there other blends where you include Viognier?
No.
We in our dessert wine,
Oh,
which we occasionally make, the sweet ending was late harvest Viognier and Sauvignon Blanc, but we don't do that every year.
there's the problem with Viognier is most people don't know how to pronounce it initially, and most of it didn't taste very well initially. And there's a bad rap, a good rap about it. And when we did make Viognier, it was popular, it was well made, but I think we have enough whites. We're pretty much red producers, but keep asking that question, and I'm sure it'll get through to Billy, and he'll probably start making them.
There you go. Good question. Thank you.
All right, I just poured some of our Los Porteros. This is the fourth wine of the day. This again is a special wine out of Happy Canyon. It's a blend of two vineyards, Star Lane and Grimm's Bluff, two of the best vineyards in the valley. In the back part, they're both in the back part of, and the warmer part of Happy Canyon, although Star Lane ends up colder too, because it's sort of this block from the fog. Anyway, it's a very interesting two vineyards, and Billy has always felt that they were the two best Cabernet vineyards in the county. And so we made a blend, Los Porteros, meaning the bluffs above a river. And so in Spanish, that's what it is. Right, Bingo?
That's right, yeah, Los Potreros.
Yes.
Yeah, it can have a lot of meanings of the field or the
Sort of a
high-
mesa above
mesa,
things.
yeah. High field.
Yeah. So anyway, this is sort of one of the additions to our Bordeaux varietals that we do. We do two other cabs, Mamere and Vogelsang. But this one has sort of become, or at least the initial bottlings, Billy wanted to try combining these two special vineyards together. And again, it's one that should be set down. It's 100% Cabernet, yes.
And this is a 2017.
Yeah,
so
2017.
We keep this back for a few years.
But it's 22 months. We leave it a little longer in French oak and 50% new French oak. So we went overboard on the French oak, and it actually is panning out because the grapes, because of their quality, were able to handle it. Are you guys out there tasting with us? I'm wondering.
I don't know. Or they're holding back or saving it for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So can you talk a little bit, Bingo, about the tannin structure and as people expect, pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good representation of Happy Canyon, which if you're comparing to say Napa or Bordeaux, much softer tannins, lighter style Cabernets, not only Cabs, but they grow Merlot, Cab Franc out there, but lighter style Cabs and Bordeaux blends.
Lighter tannins and probably more approachable. It's a wine you would lay down. I wouldn't drink it in the first. I mean, it's a 17. I would probably hold it unless you're running out. Yeah, I would say it's going to go 8 to 10 years easy. I mean, it just has such wonderful structure to it. Low pH, and we only made 477 cases. So, and I might go back and mention on the river bench, if you really like that river bench, it's a one of a kind.
Oh, someone here, B DeWitt, rocking the river bench. Gabe and Marilyn from Gold Hill, Colorado. Thanks for joining us. Our
Yeah.
tasting, well done. We're Master and Commander members and are loving the wines we received. And Lori Mercer has this is my first year in your wine club and my first virtual tasting. Though I've been a fan for quite a while. It sounds as though you taste what the grapes give you and then vary your blends each year. I appreciate that approach and would like to hear more about how the blends vary year to year. Great question. Thank you, Lori.
So we have a general idea of what the blends will be. And we, at the end of the vintage, we usually taste through more to confirm that that's what they will be, or sometimes maybe we want a little more new oak in the blend or less. So that will vary, but we generally have a pretty good idea of what the blends will be.
And it also is dependent on production in some cases. I mean, if one varietal is not, well, like we're here at, a perfect example here at Williamson Doré.
Yeah.
We didn't have the Syrah this year. We had red leaf infection in the vineyard. Our production off of 4 acres was 1 ton. So we will not have a Williamson Doré, but we will direct that Syrah into our Cuvée Jean Marie, which will now be an official GSM, Grenache Mourvedre Syrah blend. And we will probably do that for the next couple of years until the replants in the Williamson Doré vineyard are able to mature.
Okay. How would you compare the Los Potreros to Vogelsang Cab? Great question.
I would say, depending on the vintage, I think it's even slightly lighter than the Vogelsang. The blocks that we source Los Potreros from are higher elevation hillside blocks, so the wine tends to be a little lighter than Vogelsang, which is more down near the floor of the canyon.
Lighter in color or body or
body, tannin. Not that the Vogelsang is very heavy either, but that's how I would compare the two.
Well, also Vogelsang is much older, than Star Lane and much older than Grimm's Bluff. It was just planted maybe 5-6 years ago. So it's a good question because it will vary year to year, but Bingo's right. The elevation difference and the soil difference makes the Vogelsang, I think, a little, plus the age of the vineyard makes it a little more grip, a little more body.
sounds like a great topic for a tasting.
Yeah.
Cabernet, Foxen Cabernet tasting. Thank you for that. That was a great question.
All
All
right.
right. Any more questions out there or comments? Yeah. Who's the?
So
I know.
Greg, how was your trip to Greece? I've been watching. I've been watching on Facebook, and it looked like one hell of a trip. Are you back alive?
I don't know if he's in. If he's
Oh,
logged
he's
in.
supposed to be. He logged in. No.
Okay. So, all right. Where's the slow season in, okay, when's the slow
When's the
season
slow
in the
season?
tasting room? Great question. I would say we're coming into it here pretty soon. For people who want to come visit wine country, I think January and February are sometimes the best,
Right.
and into March are sometimes the best times, are quiet.
And sometimes we have the best weather in January, February,
You know,
March. So,
hopefully we'll get some rain,
yeah,
but
yeah. The tasting room has been relatively busy because the people are anticipating and buying wine for the holidays, but usually there's a little lull between Thanksgiving and Christmas for a couple of weeks. And then, boy, I would say right before Christmas, we're going to be very busy. And then coming January, it'll slow down again, like Jenny said. So, yeah,
great question.
there's another question.
All right, we do have, and at the end,
I don't know what the discount code is.
I know. All right, I'll just jump in here. So at the final screen, I want to remind people we do have special Thanksgiving bundles at discounts, and there'll be a discount code for those of you who want to reorder. And I would add that with shipping delays, it's always better sooner rather than later. And Katie, great question. Will the 12 days of Foxen be back this year?
Yes, and it's amazing. It's they've done a tremendous amount of job putting it together, and that was my idea originally to do that. And
But Katie and the team.
but Katie and the
execute.
team do it. I mean, I just get the idea, and then they do all the work. Anyway, what else do we have up here?
Yeah. So I have a question if anybody wants to jump in. What wines are you planning to serve at Thanksgiving this year?
Probably.
Bingo, what are we having for
Oh,
Thanksgiving?
are you
this year?
asking us?
Yeah.
I'm asking general.
Yeah, that was my job to figure out what wine we're having. I think Pinot.
Any Chenin or Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay?
Maybe
in there?
maybe a magnum of our 2018 Shannon Bing. It's
Yeah.
tasty.
That's
Probably some
good.
Chenin, and I wanted to try some older Pinots. I think that'd be cool. The 2014, 2015
Yeah.
Pinots.
I had 2014 the other night. That was not good. Blockade.